Hey, this is OXDF, and today we're doing day 5, a nice game of chess for the revival of Code 2023, which is the advent of Code 2016. Let's go ahead and take a look at the challenge. Basically, there's an 8-character password for the door, and I have to start with a seed. So in this case, like in the example, they give me ABC, and I'm going to start with an increasing integer index. So that's going to be like 0. It starts at 0, it starts counting up. And so the first, and basically I'm going to add ABC and then the index. And then I'm going to take the MD5 hash of that string. And if the MD5 hash starts with 5 zeros, which, so like in this case, they get it at index 3,231,929. So they hash the, ABC index. The sixth character, so it starts with 5 zeros. So then they take the sixth character of the hash, which is a 1. Then the next time it comes up, they get the sixth character, which is an 8, and so on until they get this password here. Instead of starting with ABC, I'm supposed to start with ridefim, and I'm just going to do some hash brute forcing. So let's jump over into a terminal. I'm going to use my genday script here for day 5. Beautiful, we've got it popping right up. Genday is my script that I went over this in the introductory video, but it produces these templates for me. It pulls the input for me. Not that I really needed it here, but yeah, nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and start by making some tests. We're not going to need to read from a file for sure here. I'm actually going to even get rid of this because we only have one test case to work off of, right? So we're going to come down here and we'll say we got puzzle input. Let's see, puzzle input equals ABC, and then we are going to call, we don't even need to do a parse, we'll just get rid of the parse in this function, and we're going to say AOC on part 1 on puzzle input is equal to, and we better grab that from the, where is that? So here we have our test. We're going to call part 1, we're going to even just skip the parsing, and if we call part 1 with ABC, we're going to get back this thing. If we come down here and we run PyTest, we've got a failure right now because we've got none equals that. That's what we want. Close the day 4 stuff. And let's go to day 5. We're going to get rid of, we don't even need a parse function. We're going to do a little bit of editing of our template this time. We're going to get rid of this. We'll just call this data. And now we seem to be in good shape. Yeah, okay. So for part 1, we're going to pass in data. We're going to need hashlib for sure. Import hashlib. And so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to start with our code is going to be equal to nothing. We aren't going to know what it is. Our index, call it I, is going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to do while, let's say, len code less than 8. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to get a hash. We'll call it h equals hashlib.md5 of, we'll make an f string here. So this will be data and then I. So that'll be our thing. And then we're just going to go ahead right out of that. We're going to get the hex digest, and that'll give us the hexadecimal representation. So we can say if h dot starts with 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then what are we going to do? We're going to say code plus equals h sub 5, which is the 6th character because it goes 0. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we get the 5th character. I think that's basically it. Oh, I almost always forget to do this in while loops. Regardless, we have to I plus equals 1. We have to get the next I. And then whenever this breaks, we will return code. And we might be done right now. Let's give this a PyTest and see what happens. If something is wrong. Strings must be encoded before hashing. Fine, we can do that. Oops. Encode. PyTest. Now this might take a second. If it takes more than a couple seconds, I'm going to have to pause the video and just let it go. But it didn't pretty quickly, and it worked. We solved it. So let's go ahead and do, if I come up here and just hit F5, and we'll see right now. Is this going to give me a solve? Whoa, what am I doing? All right, we're back and running. I've got it started running again here. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but we crashed. But we got a part 1. Let's go ahead and grab that. and submit. Sweet, 1 gold star. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing, but this time instead of when I get the 6th character, I don't use that. I look and see if it's a valid number. If it's a valid 1, 0 through 7, then I get the next number, the 7th number, and that is what is used as in that position, if that makes sense. And I only take the first result for each position, and I ignore invalid positions and just keep going. So first thing we're going to need to do, we are going to refactor this a little bit here, because we aren't going to have a part 1 and a part 2 here. We're just going to have a solve, because I don't want to run this twice. You saw it take some time, and it just doesn't make sense to keep it twice. So we're going to paste this here. We're going to call this, in fact, let's right click, rename symbol part 1, and return part 1, comma, maybe for now we'll do this. Null, I guess will that work? Is it lowercase null? Empty string, let's just do an empty string. Okay, so now we're just going to call solve, and we're going to completely ignore, we're going to get rid of, we're not going to have a part 1 and a part 2 because that doesn't make any sense, because we're going to calculate it all together. In fact, we'll just come here and we'll say part 2 is equal to, and then what I want to do is actually make a underscore to show me like it's a non-thing, or actually, well, yeah, underscore work. And then I want to have that times 8. And just, I can show you real quick, if we go into Python and we do that exact line, I did with spaces, but you know, that gives me 8 strings, an array of 8 items, each of which is that 1 string. So that's exactly what I want. I'm going to start off with 8 underscores, and we'll return .join part 2, like that. So now we have, we should still meet our test, except our test might break. We need to go ahead and do, we're going to get rid of this entirely. And now we're going to say, do this, part 1, comma, part 2 equals that, and then we're going to assert that part 1 is equal to that. And right now, this should still pass if we run PyTest. Oh, and we failed. Let's see. A5 has no attribute. That's a good point. Let's make this solve. And that's why we run this real quickly. So I'm expecting this will pass. We'll let it run for a second. We can go back and start looking at. We've effectively just updated our tests, so we're still passing part 1. We've done nothing for part 2, but we've rearranged our code a good bit, and we want to just make sure part 1's still working. So what's our logic here? So we want to come down here, and we're going to say, if, let's see, we'll do try, because the first thing we need to do is turn it into an int. We can say position equals int of h5. Now, if this fails, that will be a value error. We're just going to continue, because we're just going to say, we ignore this one, we're going to be good. Then we'll say if position, we can put 0 in here just to be extra careful, although I don't know how we'd get a negative number, but if position, just to show what our thinking is, equal to 7. Now, if we get a valid position, then we're going to say part 2 sub position is equal to h sub 6. Okay, and then it did say something about extra points if you can make a pretty diagram go by, so we're going to do that too. We're going to do print, and then we're going to do \r to reset to the beginning of the line, format string here, and then we're going to do part 1, and we're going to make sure that's always 8 characters, space, and then we'll do part, we better do bang bang dot join part 2, like that. I think that'll be really pretty, and I think we might just be done. Let's run it in PyTest. PyTest isn't going to show me the pretty output, but we can at least see what's going on. Oh, we didn't. Assert part 2 is equal to, we need to grab that off the code here for ABC. This seems too easy. I'm assuming we made a mistake somewhere. Well, for one, okay, cool. So this, we can see exactly what our mistake is, because when you do fail in PyTest, it shows you the standard out, and you can see we are starting to build up our function here, but we don't get, we don't finish. Our exit here is off. So what we really want to do is when we want to say, we're no longer searching. We know part 2 is going to take longer than part 1. So we can say if underscore, well underscore in part 2. So if there's no underscores in part 2, we've solved it. Let's go ahead and give that another run and see what happens. All right, we've got another failure. This is good. So now we can see actually part 1 is failing. And the reason part 1 is failing is because we don't want to add to part 1 unless, so we want to say if len part 1 is less than 8, then add there. Because then when it gets longer, we want to stop. Part 1 will just be solved. So we'll continue here. Might pause this or speed this up. Okay. So we've got another failure. This time, and this is where our pretty print is actually useful. Oh, we didn't put our, well, this is actually good. We're not pretty printing it. We're just literally printing it every time. But you can see our E here changes to 6. And we're not supposed to change it past the first time. That was in the criteria. So we want to say if this is less than that and part 2 of plus is equal to underscore. And let's see if that works. Sweet. We're passing. Okay. The one thing I need to add here is I'm going to add end equals that so that the print doesn't actually print on new lines. Then we probably want to do a print here just to clear that line before we do anything else. And I think we're going to be in good shape here. Give it a run. And you can see here it's actually pretty printing. You can see it filling in the first one and the second one starting to fill in too. And that's taking much longer, but that's probably expected. And we're still, I don't know, I'm not really sure if it's worth speeding up for. 1 character to go. We got it. Let's grab this and go over here. And done. That's this video so far. I think it's pretty simple, actually. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.